Okay, so this is part 2. So, 12, that's the number that we are up to. Henry is making a recipe for biscuits. The recipe calls for 5 over 10 kilograms of flour and 9 over 100 kilograms of sugar. If Henry measures correctly and combines the two amounts, how much flour and sugar will he have? Well, we know combine the two amounts means add them together, so we must be doing addition. But can we add 5 over 10 to 9 over 100? No, we cannot, because we can't decide which denominator to keep. So we have to make the denominators the same. So since we can't take any zeros away from 9 over 100, let's add zeros to 5 over 10. And remember, what you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So we add a 0 to the top and a 0 to the bottom, and this becomes 50 over 100, which is 5 over 10's equivalent fraction, plus 9 over 100. And now we can actually start adding. So we have 50 plus 9, and that makes 59. And we keep it over 100 because we never do anything to the bottom. 59 over 100 would be your answer to part A. And part B, how can you write your answer as a decimal? Well, we're going to take 59 over 100. Is there any whole? No, so we put a 0. And what comes after that whole? The 59. So this is part B's answer is 0.59. And excuse that 9 looks a little funky, but you know my handwriting. It's not the best. 13. An orchestra has 100 musicians. 40 over 100 of them play string. Okay, wait. Already I know this is a word problem, so I gotta start writing. 40 over 100 play string. I'm gonna put an S for string. All right. Where did it just go? Oh, there it is. What decimal, so I just read through this quickly. Violin, cello, double bass, guitar, lute, and harp. They just named a bunch of string instruments. What decimal is equivalent to 40 over 100? So they just did all of that talking, all of that word for nothing. All of that is just to confuse us so that we could say, oh, I don't know what a cello is. Well, don't worry about it. Doesn't matter. Because the question is, what is the decimal to 40 over 100? Oh, so we didn't need that whole first part. So how do I write 40 over 100 as a decimal? Well, we have no whole numbers, so I put a 0. And then I put my point to remind myself. Oh, look at that, 0.40. That's a 4. There we go. 0.40. Done. 13 was quick. The thing is, they're going to try, and you know the test makers, and you know all these textbook makers, they're going to try hard to confuse you with their words. They're going to take those words, and they're going to throw things in there that don't matter, just like with this problem. Who cares what a bass is? Who cares what a cello is? I don't care how many violins they have. If it doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Throw it out the window. They put that whole sentence in for nothing. We skipped number 14 because it would have been too difficult for you to do on the computer, and we are moving to 15. The point on the number line shows the number of seconds it took for an athlete to run the 40-yard dash. Okay. Write it as a decimal. Okay, so here's what we're seeing. We see 5.0. We see somewhere in the middle 5 and 5 over 10. That must be 5.5. And then we see 6.0, and our decimal is right here, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and we have all these lines in between. So we have 5 over 10 here. We have the next one, 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 and 6. Well, why don't we try counting? If this is 5 over 10, and this is 6, 7 over 10, 8 over 10, 9 over 10, and 10 over 10 we know is a whole. So this decimal must be 5 and 6 over 10. Because if we just keep adding fraction pieces, this is 5, 5 and 1 over 10, 5 and 2 over 10, 5 and 3 over 10, 5 and 4 over 10, 5 and 5 over 10, 5 and 6 over 10, 7 over 10, 8 over 10, 9 over 10, 6. Makes sense. So 5 and 6 over 10 is the answer to number 15. 16 on the next page, or is it on this page? I don't know. Ah, it's right here. 16 says... we're not doing 16, I forgot. Sorry, 17. I can't remember. 17 says, Callie shaded the model to represent the question she answered correctly on the test. What decimal of that model is shaded? Okay, so we have this whole big square, which I can't show you. Take a look at that square. Your job is to count up each and every single one of those squares. Is that annoying? Absolutely. Can you do it? For sure. Here's the trick to it. You know that it goes 10 down. Skip count by 10s until you can't anymore. So I have the first row is 10, the second row is 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I have 8 rows of 10, so that's 80. But there's one more, not a full row of 10. So I have 80 plus one more is 81. How do I write 81 over 100 total as a decimal? Well, I have 0 holes, and I have 0.81. So 0.81 would be that decimal. Now, I would have done number 18 with you guys because it's a true-false, but again, that's really hard to do over the computer, so I skipped it. And now I'm going, and I'm also skipping number 19 because I don't think it makes any sense. I think it's too difficult to do over the computer. The reason I'm skipping them is not because they're too hard for you guys. I just think they would be really hard to fill in on a Google form. So we're just not doing them. And number 20 is the last one that we're going to do. It's the last one that we're going over. Number 20 is just the same exact thing as the first one. You're just counting up the number of squares, counting up how many there are, how many holes, how many parts, and then you're going through each and every single one of these, and you're going to tell me which one is correct. A, B, C, D, E, and F. You have to mark all that apply. So if I'm looking, I have one whole square filled in, and I'm going to tell you right now that there's 28 squares after that filled in for the other one, for the part. So let's do that as the decimal. 1 and 28 parts makes 1.28. That means that A is correct. So we have 1.28 already. B and C don't make any sense because they're either too big or too small. How can I make 1.28 into a fraction? I can make it into 1 and 28 over 100. Is that anywhere on the other side? Sure is. E. A and E are the two correct answers. I am, you guys already know, holding a Google Meet to go over some of these for those of you that didn't get all of them. So in the Google Meet, I'll do more pinpointed questions. We can talk about things that were really confusing so that on the test, we're not confused at all. And you guys are going to do great because you did really well on this chapter, even though it's been all online, even though you had this big transition from going from learning with me in the classroom and being able to ask questions whenever you have a question to not being able to do that. You guys have been unbelievable, and I know that you guys are going to do great on this Chapter 9 test. I am so proud of you guys. Take a break, because this has been a long lesson. This is part 2, so you had pretty much 29 minutes of learning already. So take a little break, and go and do something else. Go and relax for half an hour, and come back to work in a half an hour. And I will see you on Google Meet.